Thank you very much. And thank you very much for inviting me here today. I'm really chuffed to be in front of all of you guys talking about one of the exciting collaborations that I've been working on over the last few months. For those of you who haven't met me today already, I'm Felicity Liggins and I'm a climate scientist at the Met Office. So this is our beautiful headquarters, just in case any of you are ever down in Exeter. We're just off the M5, A30 junction, and about 1,500 people work here, and the majority of those people are scientists. And excitingly, next month, in pretty much 4 weeks today, a production that Collider are involved with are actually putting on one of their productions in the lit up wing that you can see there on the right hand side. It's going to be really exciting. It's the first time the Met Office has hosted some kind of public performance event. So there are, yeah. Bring the happy, it's called. So if you want to Google it, you're heckling me. Right, to what I'm supposed to be talking about. So I'm a climate scientist at the Met Office. I kind of have two roles within the organisation. One of those roles is to work with businesses around the UK and further afield to help them understand what a changing climate means for their organisation. So I don't necessarily go into a company and say, by 2050, the temperature might have risen by 2.5 to 3 degrees. What we actually get to do is understand what vulnerabilities different organisations have to the weather or to certain aspects of our climate, and then examine how those might change and what it actually means for them. And I think that echoes quite nicely some of the discussions that we were having earlier today about how you translate or you create a bespoke story for whatever audience you're talking to. So whether it's one of the publics that you guys are engaging with, or whether it's a different organisation from a multinational food company to oil companies, yes, I do work with oil companies, through to a local authority who are interested in how their roads might melt more in a changing climate. It's all about making the information relevant to them. So that's kind of half my role. The other half is that I work very closely with the communications teams across the Met Office to help create engaging content about our science. So I work with a number of different collaborations, from EDF Energy to Bloodhound Supersonic Car, all sorts of different collaborations, and a large part of my role is actually coordinating the STEM outreach for the Met Office. So that's promotion of science, technology, engineering and maths to young people. So I'm really interested in how different groups of people can come together to talk about science and create stories about the science that we do at the Met Office and that other institutions around the world also do. And one of the ways that we've been doing that recently is at events called hackathons. Do any of you know what a hackathon is? Have you guys? There's a few. Okay, so a hackathon, I've got a few pictures here from one of the hackathons that Seth mentioned, the NASA Space Apps Challenge. Hackathons are events that are normally taking place in a very short time period, from a couple of hours to a couple of days, where people with lots of different skills come together to tackle challenges. So those challenges might be on a theme, for example, international development or capacity building, education. And the people who come along to these hacks, I'll just go back one. The people who come along to these hacks are from lots of different skill sets. And one thing I've been really interested in is getting artists along to these hacks to help us explore a different aspect of what we do. So the first one that we held was a couple of years ago, and that was the NASA Space Apps Challenge. So there were hack teams all over the world tackling space-related challenges, and you might not know it, but the Met Office is quite involved in a lot to do with space. So we've just started doing space weather forecasting, and obviously we have satellites and we have access to all that space data. So it was really important for us, and we really enjoy getting involved in the NASA Space Apps Challenge. And as Seth said, we'll be doing that again this year, 11th to 12th of April. So if any of you are inspired to get involved with something like this, keep an eye on our website, because we will be advertising the fact that we're doing this next global hack at the Met Office. We're also doing one at the Science Museum up in London. At the same time as we were developing these hacks, another group of communicators within the Met Office were creating a website that was all about communicating with young people about issues around climate change and a little bit about sustainability. But one thing to note is that the Met Office isn't a campaigning organisation. We don't look to change behaviour. What we try to do is ensure that people have the most robust science, so that they can make, whether it's decisions for an organisation or personal decisions. If you are informed as well as you can be, then hopefully you can make better decisions. Doesn't always work, but that's what we try to do. So we don't actually look to change behaviour within people or within organisations. But we created this website called My Climate and Me, and through that website, the guys who did the filming met someone called Professor Helen Story. Now, I don't know if any of you have heard of Helen. She has been working in the fashion industry for many years now. She started off as a designer, but quite a few years ago, she decided that she didn't want to be part of the problem anymore. Obviously, the fashion industry comes with a lot of baggage, whether it's water resources, the sustainable use of things like cotton or plastics, the consumption attitude, particularly with kind of fast turnaround fashion that we have nowadays. So Helen didn't want to be part of that problem anymore. When she made stuff, she wanted to be part of the solution. So she started getting more and more involved in conversations with scientists, whether that's in the biomedical field or sustainability. And through the My Climate and Me website, we met Helen, and she was really excited about the possibility of working with the Met Office. So these really two interesting strands for us came together. One was the hackathon, which we were developing more and more, and the other side was suddenly we were talking to fashion designers. I've never talked to a fashion designer in my life, but suddenly we were kind of inundated with them at the Met Office, and they were really excited about coming to work with us. And to be honest, if you come to the Met Office and you see the fashion that's going on there, it's a lot better than it used to be, but it's not the natural home for fashion designers. So it's quite exciting, but possibly a little scary. But what we decided to do was hold a hackathon. And luckily enough, we were offered the chance to hold a hackathon as part of the Victoria and Albert Museum's Digital Design Weekend in September last year. So we liaised very closely with the V&A over the number of months and with the guys from the Centre for Sustainable Fashion. And also, which was really pleasing, we had fashion students from Exeter College involved in this process as well. It was great to bring those students into discussions with people who are world leaders in their field and have these kind of 20, 21-year-old students coming in and learning about how scientists and fashion designers work together. And they came along to the hack with us as well. So on the hack, we tackled a number of fashion and climate change related challenges. So, for example, we looked at how do you design an iconic London rain mac for the 2050s? Or how do you create wearable technology that old people are happy to use to help them manage their health during times of extreme weather? But the headline piece that we did during the hack was led by Helen Story, and it was the creation of a climate dress. So you can see on the right-hand side here, this is one of Helen's ideas, one of her inspirations for the climate dress. So she was thinking about some kind of beautiful designed dress that you could project onto, and how we didn't quite know how we were going to be projecting onto. So much of the wearable technology that's out there at the moment is really clunky, and having that kind of technology next to your skin is actually quite unpleasant. And so we wanted to explore how you integrate technology into something that's really quite beautiful. But also, what are we going to communicate with this climate dress? As I said, the Met Office isn't about telling people what to do. We were interested in exploring how we could maybe use a beautiful dress to communicate some beautiful data. I know we were talking in our breakout group earlier today about how data, climate data, weather data, the climate system is a beautiful system, and how can we maybe help people engage with that in a slightly different way. And from Helen's perspective and the other people from the Centre for Sustainable Fashion, they were interested in how they could communicate some of their messages onto this dress. So we had the hack. You can see one of the prototypes of the dress on the right-hand side. For once, the hack was held in public, and this was a really interesting process for us, because hacks are often held behind closed doors, but we were part of the digital design weekend, so we had to welcome the public. So we had about 30 different experts in the room, all hacking away, but the public could come in and they could interrupt us, they could join the teams, and we had some brilliant interruptions, going back to some of Seth's ideas about how do you create some kind of interruption that changes the process that we're undertaking, and the public were great for that at this particular event. So we did come up with a dress, and we've actually now engaged with a global leader, a sort of multinational consumer product company, who are funding the development of this dress over the next 6 months. So it's a really exciting time for us to explore, both from a technology point of view, how do you project onto this dress, how will people interact with it, how does that sit with what the Met Office does, what the Helen and the guys from the Centre for Sustainable Fashion do. And I thought I'd just show you one of the challenges that I've had from a personal perspective about this project. I've loved working with the designers. It's really inspiring. But some of the language difficulties has been really interesting. So at a workshop that these guys held, they would come up with drivers and trends for what's kind of the thinking behind this climate dress. And when I was reading this, I was like, why on earth are they talking about solar storms? I know the Met Office does space weather, but why are the guys talking about the climate dress interested in coronal mass ejections from the sun? And then I discovered that solar storms were something to do with, it relates to the Minecraft and the gamification aspect. It was a nice highlight for me that, you know, scientists get a bit bashed for talking in our own language. You guys do it too, okay? And so we're kind of finding our way at the moment. You know, I don't know how many times you can put eyes onto the end of a sentence, onto the end of a word, in the kind of fashion design area. They seem to understand what they're talking about. I rarely do. So it's been really interesting to go through this process of how do we find that common language between the Met Office and fashion designers to create something really interesting. And just finally, I'll tell you that the kind of ultimate aim for this project is to take the climate dress to Paris 2015. So that's the really exciting deadline that we're kind of working to. Obviously, to take a climate dress to the climate summit at the home of fashion, it doesn't really get much better than that. So I might start investing in some new wardrobe to be going out there. But
are you not going to wear the climate dress?
I don't think I will, but I'm sure some of our scientists might. It'll be really interesting to see. Do you know, saying that, I don't want to see a lot of our scientists in a dress like that. Most of them are kind of tweed wearing with a big beard kind of thing. So I'm not sure they could pull it off. So yeah, we'll see. So very, very brief introduction to the climate dress. And if you've got any questions about that project or the Met Office?
Two quick ones, and
yep.
I'll bring you back at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. Hello.
First of all, that's really inspiring. What fantastic work.
Thank you.
Sorry, my name's Hattie Naylor. I'm co-founder of a theatre company called Gallivant, and I'm primarily a playwright. And what I wanted to ask you is probably quite a selfish question, really. I wonder if you've done much work from the years ago, went into the Met Office and researched a play, wrote a play, and actually dramatised your office.
Wow, that must have been really, really not thrilling.
I just wondered how much you wandered into the arena of theatre or performance in your engagement with
Very little. So I'm kind of doing this by stealth. If I went to the people who held the money and said, can we design a climate dress, I'm not sure it would happen that way. So what I'm doing, and what my colleagues who are working on projects like this are doing, is we're getting involved with artists. So there's a number of different projects on at the moment. Generally, they're about creating some kind of physical artifact or item. But we're kind of doing that as well as our day jobs to try and show the value of communicating our science in different ways. The closest we've probably got to that is I worked with a group of Exeter University drama students with one of my colleagues a couple of years ago. They wanted to do their final year dance piece on something to do with weather and climate. So we spent a couple of months talking them through different concepts, and then they came into the Met Office and did their piece in the big atrium at the centre of the Met Office, which was incredibly brave. I thought, to be doing that as your final year piece. And some of the scientists, there was about a couple of hundred scientists around watching them, and some of them actually said that they saw what they do reflected in the contemporary dance that the students had done, which was amazing to have that kind of reaction. So there's been bits and pieces. I'd be really interested in exploring. One of the reasons why I got really excited when Seth came to the Met Office was that exploration and how we can find different ways to engage with different groups. Sorry, that was a long answer. Quick one, anyone?